gosh, we're live again. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending where you are. I'm excited to be here with you. I got an awesome interview here today. Really excited to be bringing Skye Conway on. Going into raw vegan recipe creation. She contributed her Roar Classics books, the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle, available only till 11th, $1,850 worth of stuff for just $50. It's ridiculous. It's once a year. It's limited time, and now's the time to act. If you haven't got it, let us know if you've already got it in the comments, and share a little bit if you like it. I'm sure you do, and if you haven't seen it, you're gonna want to check it out. We got all these lives going on throughout the entire bundle period. I'm doing generally about 3 a day, and a lot of others are doing that and even more. You can check that all out on the site as well in the top right, and you can get to the bundle and grab it in Skye's Instagram or in mine. So you can check that out. Let's see if Skye's in here. Denmark checking in. What's up, Mike? Good to see you guys. Thank you for joining me this morning. Kind of crazy, Chris. I was up a little bit late last night, burning the midnight oil. I wasn't burning anything, but yeah, a little bit tired. But here we go. Skye, how you doing?
Hello. Hey, Chris. How are you? I'm good.
I'm doing pretty darn good too, considering the lack of sleep, to be honest. So if I'm a little bit less sharp than Attack under the buns, I'm sorry, but that's what it is.
I'm sure you'll be fine. You're always bubbly.
Oh, and I have water.
We all love water. Who doesn't love water?
Exactly. So what time is it for you right now? So you're over in Australia.
It's 7 o'clock. It's 7 p.m. I'm ending my day. My day's winding down.
So is it the 4th today for you? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Nice. Been a nice smooth day for you?
Yeah, it has. I'm enjoying the bundle. I love doing this. It's amazing.
Me too. It is. Sometimes I'll admit, maybe I shouldn't, but sometimes I have a little bit of like, oh, this is going to be crazy. Maybe my brain's going to explode. But even if it does, it's so fun. And it's, to me, it's like that.
Put that to the side. It's all fun. It's
Exactly.
so much fun. My brain exploded. I can excuse it.
I think
that.
sometimes when your brain explodes, you discover something you didn't even know.
You do. I feel like this bundle's made me realize my own potential. I like it. I'm like, I didn't know I could keep going and going, and I really attribute that to the food as well. Having good nutrition in my body helps.
Makes a big difference. I think last night I ended up running on fumes. I made dinner at like 6 o'clock, but I didn't end up eating until 11:30 at night. Silly, Chris.
I bet it tasted good. I bet it tasted amazing.
If you didn't see it, it was Dan's manicotti, and it was.
I did.
Yeah, it was pretty damn amazing, and just the textures and how it came together. Yeah.
I saw that. That was incredible. That was well worth the wait.
It was worth the wait.
Explosion.
I almost had little tears going down my eyes. But I'm really excited to talk to you about this because you have a really, really creative book in the bundle itself. And I can tell you have a lot of fun making food, and I'm just curious about your journey and also, raw recipe creation and your process and all that fun stuff.
Sure. Well, just to cut a really long story about my journey short is I was sick pretty much my entire life from when I was 8, like really, really sick. And the diagnosis was like over 50. I ended up, at some stage I've had my stomach removed. I've had duodenum removed. I've had lots of organs removed. I've had over 60 surgeries. I at one stage had to relearn to walk and talk. Like I was really sick. No one actually at one stage, I was a few years there, about 3 years, no one thought I was going to make it. Anyway, I came through all of this, and then I ended up becoming an alcoholic to try and cope with all of this. And my parents said, this is it. You've got to then move out and deal with this yourself. So I did that, and I'd been vegan for about 2 years. And when I moved out, it was COVID. I was getting food in. I was making really simple foods. And I noticed when I even just baked, say, sweet potato or pumpkin or something, I would end up back in bed. If I had fruits or salad, I got out to the clothesline and hung some clothes out. I rested, then ate raw foods, and then within a couple of days I could bring the clothes in. Like I was able to build my life after raw foods. So
awesome.
Foods, It is. It's absolutely incredible. But you have to then realize what raw foods mean to me.
Kitty,
Oh,
silly kitty, I'm out of here. Oh no.
so excited.
Bye.
I was feeling that. I was going down. But with a journey like that, you then have to understand the value I place on the food. Like I literally, it's just incredible. I mean, it was other things like sunlight and getting in the ocean, talking to people again. Of course they help, but I couldn't do them until I had raw foods. Yeah. So this bundled raw foods, you guys, it all means so much to me. And I feel like you can see it in my foods, like that I just, to have a life all because of raw foods. And I want, in the best way possible, to share that with people.
Oh, and it's impacted you so much and enlivened you, and you've had that experience where it's like, this is almost freaking magic, and it's like available at every grocery store. It's all over the place. Like you can do this for yourself. You know, it's like you want to share it. And I mean, I can tell. I gotta admit, you know, like watching your videos and stuff, you're just shining. You're so excited. I can see the passion. I can see I just see your heart, and it's just so beautiful. And I just, you know, really appreciate you sharing and being a part of the bundle and bringing all you are to the world, because it's making a difference. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. It really, it's, you know, going through a journey like that and knowing that whatever the result was of getting well is that I could validate whatever made me well. Yeah. Like I could really stand behind it and say, this works. So it, you know, when you get people that say, you know, but I don't have money or I don't have this, I did it on the disability pension. I was like, this food works. I just put my money into it. And I even created recipes back then because I was so excited about it. So everything in that book has really evolved from, you know, those first steps after eating raw foods.
Do you have any from your first book that just jump out that are some favorites you still make some from time to time? Or has your taste kind of changed?
Do you mean from my, okay, so to be honest, the combo is like I always feel like each of us has like something already written in us that you know, the spice level, the acidity level, the fat level, that has not changed. I guess I fine-tuned it. I know it better. But really, like, oh gosh, I don't know. To be honest, it was always like mango, basil, garlic, lime, chili. Like you could.
That sounds pretty damn good. I think we got similar taste buds, you know, because those are some pretty key flavors.
Well, in fact, I've lost my train of thought. I made a stew yesterday, and I'm having a mental block as to what stew it was. It was absolutely amazing.
Was it the Mexican one?
No, it had the Napa cabbage in it.
Okay.
And
was it the Holy Hot Pot?
It was called Creamy
Orange Bok. Creamy Orange Bok.
That's it, yes. Because I had bok choy. Yes, I got the bok choy. I hadn't had that raw.
I love bok choy. It's such an underlooked green, you know, and you know, it's in the Brachia family, so it's, you know, got all those little benefits from those, and it's crazy, you know, like a lot of people, you know, tout kale and, you know, the kale t-shirts and stuff like that, because people talk about nutrition per gram. Like you look around, everyone, but we don't eat per gram, you know, we eat calories. And when you go like nutrition per calorie, you know, Napa cabbage and bok choy and even iceberg is like pretty comparable to kale, and it's generally juicier and easier to digest. And you know, bok choy and Napa, they're like among the highest protein and highest nutrient density per calorie. It's amazing. And they're usually cheap. You know, like at least here, those are the two cheapest greens.
Yeah, it was really cheap actually. And it is easy to digest. Even the thought of kale is, when it's not finely chopped up or blended, just kind of, it hits me already, because you get very sensitive when you eat a lot of raw foods. You just think of the food and you get a feeling. And the bok choy, to me, bok choy, it actually was easier to digest than I remember it ever being cooked. It has that like buttery, to me, it reminds me, it's like silky. Yeah. And it was really enjoyable. I really loved it. It was fantastic.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear. I hope you enjoy and try some other ones from there as well. And
I will.
Yeah, I can't stop touting the benefits of bok choy and Napa. They're probably my most consistent greens over the last probably eight years, maybe even 10.
Wow. That's incredible. They also, it was really smooth on my digestion. Like now I think, so I'd had cabbage before and I can kind of get unsettled with it. But Napa cabbage, that Chinese like type cabbage, that was
Yeah,
a lot easier. Like I
yeah,
felt good.
yeah. And I don't know if it's. I mean, I could go deep into that because I just love that stuff. But I often find it for like $1 a pound, you know, and most other greens are like 3 or 4 or 5 or sometimes 8 for like the spring mixes and
Yes.
stuff like that. And it's like so condensed and it's like it's so easy just to chop into noodles. It's like instant noodles, you know, and yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
is. No,
it's
I
so
really
fun.
enjoyed it. I
Oh,
really liked your book. I like the way that you do things in there. It gives me ideas as well. So exploring that recipe yesterday also just added some tools into what I could do in the future to my recipes, like to make the
nice.
textures a bit different. So I really enjoyed that.
Blessing, absolutely. I think that's one of the main things with the bundle that I just love so much is the collaboration and coming together and sharing ideas and passions because we can start to get like this, you know, and be like, oh, this is the
Yeah.
way, this is good. You know, and then you like, you know, these are the flavors I like, kind of like we mentioned a little bit. And sure, we might have some tendencies, but playing with other people's recipes and tasting and, you know, exploring their palate, it just widens
That's
your whole
right.
view, right?
That's right. What I also noticed is because I don't know any other raw vegans in person
Mm,
in Australia, and so what happens when you're always out? It's like I guess you get your guards up, as in I eat raw food. You know, people can say this or whatever, but I and you really stick to your guns.
yeah.
And so this has let me let that down a bit to kind of, it's like a trust thing really, is that these other people are eating raw and they have ideas too. Because you're
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
I am very stuck. I did it like as a protective mechanism, but this is lovely to explore other people's really brain patterns of what they've got. So I love that.
Me too. Me too. I have something startling to tell you though. Other raw foodists don't exist. We're all AI.
What?
No, I'm just
Really?
joking. I'm just joking, gosh.
Oh my
Wouldn't that be crazy? You're in the Truman Show. I'm sorry to
oh
say, but we're
my
just
God. I
AI.
don't need, look, after the life I've lived, that probably doesn't seem too far-fetced. I would
Yeah.
be like, that would be the icing on the cake that I'm the only raw vegan in the world besides AI.
You've just been green pilled.
Oh, great, there's a green one.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just bringing this up.
Oh,
But so
wow.
I gotta ask because it really resonates and connects with me. Where did roar come from?
Oh, that's right. Yes. So I hadn't seen yours yet either because I don't know if you know. So when I first went raw, I couldn't really read or write.
Mm,
So I couldn't really get onto a computer or anything. But when I ate the food, I don't know if you noticed this too, is as I ate the foods and as I spent time in nature, it's like the universe started talking to me. And it never said raw as in RAW. It was like, Skye, you're roaring through life now. Um,
I love it.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like, and then I did when I could get on and understand, started following people. I did see your lion, and I loved it so much. But it was basically what happened was with the raw food, I started roaring in everything I did. Like I would just start trying things, and I loved it. Where did your raw come from?
Well, I'm a Leo. I just
I'm a
love that so
Leo
much, and
too.
I I love the concept of just roaring through
Yeah,
life and roaring at everyone. And I got some silly stories about that that I will go into briefly. But
go for
yeah,
it.
I'm just a Leo, and I really connect with and identify with cats, all
Yeah,
sizes, and I just love the spirit of like "Rrr, roar, you know, and like you know the
yeah.
got the name. But you know, it's funny. Have you ever noticed that kids get the funnest clothing ever, and they don't make them in adult sizes often, and when they do, it usually just doesn't look quite as right. You know, the proportions.
Yeah.
I still do it. I have some onesies over there. You know, it's hard to find a lion one, but I do have a baboon one, and I have a sloth one, and I have a couple others. But sidetrack, sorry. Um, one year when I was in Mexico, I saw this little kid's shirt. There's little kids shirts, and there's like a lion with a crown on it, and the mouth of the lion actually had a flap that you could open, and it would just be an open mouth with all these teeth. And I was like, don't you have adult sizes? And they're like, no, 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 no. So, anyways, I bought two of them, just small, teeny baby T-shirts. Cut out the lion, put it on my hoodie, and sewed it on really nicely. And every time I wear it, I tell you, Skye, I'm cruising around, and when I see people, especially when I see people that are like, I can just tell they need something, you know, they just need
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
I look at them in the eyes and I open up the flap and I go, "Rawr!" like that. And
I love
it,
it.
it is so fun. It is just so fun to catch people a little bit off beat, you know, and just
Yes,
bring a smile, you know, and some good raw energy.
that's right. And I think the whole thing about raw and raw foods is that you feel like a child again. You have this like effervescence of this like bubbling out of you, just like ready to roar out of you. I don't know if
Mhm.
you heard, I'm a Leo as well. So that never really came into it. But like now you said it, I'm like, yeah, I'm a Leo. So maybe that's, that played a subconscious part to it.
Team Leo, we're the best.
We are.
You gotta live up to the attitude, you know. Rawr!
You
King of the hill.
do. You do. But it's so much comes from the raw foods, like
Yeah.
your imagination, your health, recipes. It's all raw. Like it's just, and I think that just I think when I think of the word raw, ROAR, I think of so many different things. And when I think of raw, I think of kind of like the food or a bit stripped back. So that's why I wanted to take it to next level.
Mhm. Absolutely. And you know, you mentioned too, what's it called? How like you just feel that childlike kind of enthusiasm, you know, and it's such a blessing to feel that, you know, like it's funny, like, and I catch myself in it, you know, like I'm not always in it 100% of the time, you know, of course, like anyone, but I find myself in it a heck of a lot. And just yesterday, for example, I was walking through the grocery store, just bubbling and just wanting to smile at everyone, just wanting to pass that on, you know, and recognizing that not a lot of people really get that, you know, and it's just such a gift to feel that again, you know, not
Yeah.
just when we're little kids.
It's so true. I guess also we grow up thinking that it has to stop at a certain
Well,
time, and then all of a sudden with this like the awakening of raw foods, I realized that no, it keeps going. Like my imagination is the greatest gift ever. I mean, it's where my recipes also come from. It's where ideas come from. Creativity, fun.
yeah.
It's something that should keep blossoming and growing.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I do want to talk about that, but I do want to go back just to the beginning when you said that you started eating fruit and you really noticed that it felt better in your body and it led to
Oh.
higher energy levels. And was there any like resistance there, or when you really started to notice that, was it just like something you wanted to take on and go deeper into pretty quickly?
So I will say leading up to this, so 5 years so I've been physically sick my entire life. My mental health went downhill that's it, about 4 or 5 years prior. But with that is what I call like a spiritual awakening. So nothing externally could help. I really detached from, look, it was very complicated, but the reality is I felt I just had myself. There was nothing else going on. Each step I was taking was fighting myself. It's when I became vegan. And up to this point, nothing was working. So my entire life, nothing had worked. This was something working.
Hmm.
And it was like, remember this 5 year process was like, I went paleo and then I went vegan. It was this gradual process, right, of getting to this point. So there was no, when I call this awakening, there's no, you can't turn back.
Yeah.
You feel too unwell.
Yeah.
So when I discovered it, the thing that came to me is, Skye, what are you willing to do for your health?
Yeah.
And it was quite simple, whatever it takes. Like I've been through, you know, a monstrous amount of things. This is right here. And it was like this commitment right then that was going to like lock me in and keep going with it. And I was so grateful.
Mm.
Do you know how it feels to know, and also to be unchained? So I don't need a prescription, I don't need a doctor, I don't need a carer, don't even need money really.
Yeah.
At some level, people would donate food if I needed it. It was very free, like, you know, or you could go plant food. It was
Yeah.
very freeing to know that finally I could do me, because I'd had people care for me my entire life. So this was, and also as I stepped into it, I really felt like I was teaching the world. I really was aware no one did this. Otherwise I would have heard of it before this point, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
realized every step, but everyone, you have to understand the dramatic change was almost instant. Anyone around me could see how completely different I was within
Oh.
a few weeks. Like I
Yeah.
would say 6 weeks, most of my symptoms had just about all gone. But just my parents, my sister, all of that. So it was a real like there was no other way than being grateful, really. Like, it was not even like I've got to force myself. There was none of that. I found the answer, and maybe I had to go through all I did to be that grateful.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
feel,
I can 1,000% resonate with that for sure. And
yeah,
you know, it's really interesting that you mentioned this too, because I think a lot of people, they get into raw food and the people around them get really worried for them. It's like,
yeah,
you know, you're just eating health food, and they're like, oh, but that can't be healthy, you know, and like it's
that's
really
right.
funny. It's really funny, but it sounds to me like you had such a dramatic shift that the people
Yeah.
around you were probably like, wow, like this is amazing, this is working. But I wonder, was there a point where they got concerned for you, or they thought maybe this is too far, or did they just see the change and were like, really like a spark went off in their mind too? And how has it impacted them?
So I have to say that not really has it ever been, besides like a miracle, as in there. I will say this. So I would, instead of going out talking about ailments, things I couldn't do, couldn't move, next doctor's appointments, saying, oh, I saw there's this new type of tomato in a store. You should see it. It's beautiful. I paired it with basil. So they're not only seeing physically as well that I'm able to move around and do things. I'm able to speak again in full sentences that made sense. And also I'm talking about things that they're just like, and I remember my sister even saying to me, I go, I'm sorry, all I talk about is vegetables now. She goes, it's so good. She goes, it's so good. So I have been near, they thought they were going to lose me many times. And to be there, talking about basil and tomato in coherent sentences was like a miracle. So there has been times where people have said, especially, I don't have a stomach. That I always get, that salad is so big. That salad is so big. And that would just be like a trigger. But it was never that they were worried. They were more like, how is she getting that inside her? More like that.
Yeah.
I think my dad might have said one thing about protein, and then I actually gave him a talk about protein, and they just can't believe it. I'm saying things, but it's been so supportive, so positive. They've been right by my side. Anything I need, if I've had, been unwell, Dad will drive down and drop me off veggies. Like, they know that that's how you got to have your fruit and vegetables. So I'm
Yeah.
very, very blessed, because I do hear that it can be hard with in some situations. But mine was like, this whole new person came out into the world very quickly. So I was so grateful for that.
Wow. That's seriously so beautiful, and just such an important thing to share, like how life-changing it can really be. And
Yeah.
I'm curious because you kind of mentioned, you know, that it allowed you to come into so much more clarity, like in your speech and in your thought. I'm wondering if that actually, the thought before that, was it that your thought was unable to have a nice stream of consciousness, or was your mind really like seeing it, conveying it, but you couldn't speak it?
So what had happened was I had shingles through the eye, and then I couldn't walk or talk. This was at the end, this is 2019, and then I had to relearn to do those things. During that time, all my memories flooded back. So they say, I know there would be inflammation, right? But just know this whole time was that that voice of mine going, sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, so the question was, when in the times where you had a harder time stringing sentences
Right.
together, were they like in your mind, were you able to do it, but just trying to come out, it didn't
No.
come out? Or in the mind, was it blurry too and unable to be
Yes,
coherent?
it was blurry. So it was
Wow.
blurry in my
Wow.
mind. So it wasn't until the foods that it was like putting an electrical system back online. So
Yeah.
when I was younger, I was very like, what does that do? How does it do it? When does it do it? What does it do it? That type of child. And being unwell, you become very focused on, right, if I need to get there, I've got to bring hot water bottle, I've got to bring medication, I've got to call somebody. Like, your brain is like really doing that. And then when it became free, I tried to learn, but it was like massive fog. Once I've done this, it's like it happened slowly. So, and I was so grateful. All these thoughts, I was like, I'm thinking this. I want to do this. I can do this. It all came back online all together. And now it's like anything I want to do, it doesn't mean that it'll be easy first go, but if I keep showing up and trying it, I can now do it.
Yeah.
So in the past, that wasn't like that. So it's real. It's like this beautiful symphony through the body and mind and soul and consciousness that all came back online.
Yeah, I love the analogy of a symphony. You know, just
Yeah,
like it's just so amazing how one little thing can be off and the whole thing doesn't sound quite as well, but when you embrace Mother Nature and you embrace
that's
holistic health,
right.
it's like that symphony starts to just really resonate, right?
Yeah, also felt like they were gifts. So I'd been harming myself most of my life, unaware, but
Yeah.
still, doing things that harm myself. As I love myself, I felt the universe gift me. So I would get the gift of, I could feel better. Like I could actually touch things that felt okay, then good, then amazing. And I'm like, oh, that's a gift. And then you keep loving yourself and giving yourself the foods and the nature and just lots and lots of love. And I would start to get more gifts. Like my hair would start to come back and then it would feel thick. And I'm like, oh, that's so lovely. Like it was like, I like to think of it like that. Some people call it karma, but I felt as I loved myself, the healing is gifts. So,
Yeah.
and there's gifts, people, they're probably written in many texts and we don't understand them when our mind's all busy with iPads and lots of, overstimulating foods. But once everything comes back down, you start to see the whole world through a different lens. And that's another gift I see, is that I get to then read things now and go, that story makes sense. I'm walking a similar story in my own light, my own way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing the shifts that can occur just from that mindset shift of blessings and gifts and things
Yeah.
happening for you and just endless opportunity. And, so often I think once we've come through it, we can look back and have a lot more clarity on where we
Mhm.
came from. And I'm wondering, because I'm sure a lot of people are, stuck in that same place of maybe not seeing things as gifts and stuff like that.
Mm.
What you mentioned, I'm trying to remember the exact words you said. Um, you mentioned essentially that you were in not in that same mindset. And what
Mm.
was it that really allowed you to create that shift? Like how
Mm.
I wish I could rewind because I had it in mind exactly what you said, but it slipped.
I believe it was the circumstances that pushed me, but I believe I was driving the ship the whole time.
Yeah.
So you've got to drive a ship to crash it, to realize you've got nothing to rebuild or really find. It's even kind of crashing the ship so you can see the ocean. Like I feel like I was sailing most of my life around everything I've been told.
Mhm.
So from when you're young, you're told you're a girl, you're told you're going to grow up and go to school, you're told things by teachers, and we kind of learn that what is valid is what we're told. Once that whole fabric crashes down and no one can help you, you know that none of it works. And when you find in nature the truth, it was also like these 5 years, nature started talking to me, as in the sun was being stronger, whether even irritating me sometimes or not. Everything became very, very loud. Um, yes. So does that
Oh,
sort of,
sorry. Well, you know what? Actually, it did come back to me, and I'm sorry to give you a cat moon.
no,
Oh my God, she's just hiding her little face in my arm. She's
oh,
so
so
precious.
beautiful.
Oh. But actually, it did come back, luckily. The synapses did fire.
Ah,
Um, you mentioned that you were at a place where you weren't really showing yourself love, and you knew
yeah.
it. You were still aware, and I think people really can get into that place. And I'm just curious because you've gone through it and, looking back on it, can you identify why,
Yeah.
you're aware of it, but you still chose what didn't really serve you? Is there anything that comes up for you in that?
Yeah, as we grow up, we're told things like, "Oh, don't be like that. That's showing off. Don't be like that. Self-centered. Look after others. Put others first.
Yeah.
This person needs that. You go do that." That eventually comes the script. And what I discovered very quickly is if you love yourself, just say, for example, you get up in the morning and you go for a walk, have some water, get some fresh air, and then you plan your raw foods for the day. The energy that you build from that, what you give not only to yourself, but to the world, to your children, to your grandparents, to your parents, to the people down the street, when you become better, is much more important than getting up really early, not having breakfast, drinking a coffee, reading some magazine which isn't even relevant to you, and then all doing it because you've got to get a child to a soccer match, and then you get back and you get home and you're exhausted, you're really not appreciating even what they do. In my mind, and it is better to, and I know that everyone's in a different situation, but to find a way to look after you, because what you then give to every person around you is next level. So it's so funny, we're thinking like, I've got to have, this is what my mind was like as well, is medication and things like caffeine I was able to function at some level when I was very sick. So you start to do them to think that that's what's right. You've got to get from A to B, right? Yeah. But what really matters is if you know, I think when I started this is I was very isolated, and just doing the food and love, I worked out that the other thing, I'll just jump here, is when I started eating the raw foods, I noticed the voice in my head that was talking was so kind. It was so loving. It literally was what talked me back to health. So, and once I discovered you could love yourself, I couldn't get enough of it. And I loved everyone else more. I did everything else better. I feel like I gift other people things because I love me. And I want people to know that if you love you, what you give to everybody you love is exponential. Like it really does grow. What is your experience in that? Because it's a huge part of the raw foods, right?
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%. It's a subject near and dear to my heart, and it just makes me like almost tear up hearing you share the same kind of message. I love it so much. And I mean, I was definitely in a place where I didn't love myself, you know, and it took a long time to get there, because I used to be a kid that didn't even think about it. I was just naturally buoyant and happy and loving and all that stuff. And I think throughout my life, that's what most people have seen all the time. But I did get to a place in my late teens where I was drinking and smoking and, you know, partying and, you know, fast food and pizzas and, you know, bacon double cheeseburger pizzas. That was like what I thought was like the best food possible, you know? And I wasn't showing myself love in action, you know, like I was eating stuff that my tongue loved, but it wasn't foods or moods or mindsets that really actually filled me up with love.
That's right.
And when I discovered yoga and then I discovered raw food, I started to learn that I can actually fill myself up with love. Like I can actually physically, emotionally, mentally fill myself up with love. And I experienced the exact same thing as you. Like my whole mood, my entire inner being shifted, and I started wanting to share that. And I just wanted to grow in love. And, you know, I really now do consider fruits and vegetables Mother Nature's love. You know, it's like, it's got everything in it. It's like, it's sun-kissed, it's got the earth, it's got the air, it's got the fire from the sun, you know, it's like, it's just so beautiful, and it makes such a difference. And I also just want to briefly mention, in the bundle also, you know, new people here too, you know, we're both in the bundle, which is available in Skye's link as well as mine, and is just jam-packed full of recipes and mindset shifts and information and yoga and so much. But the only reason I brought that up actually is because we also have Sachiko in the bundle, and the title of her book is I Put Love in My Body. And it's all about her shift from eating disorder and her growth through that, through changing her whole life with putting more love in her body, you know, and it really goes deep into her story. It's just such a beautiful truth, because, yeah, if you're thinking in such a way, oh my gosh, if you're thinking in such a way that like, oh, I don't like this and that's no good, and, you know, like, like, this isn't fair, and, you know, like just a victim kind of mentality, or a non-blessed kind of mentality. You're talking about being grateful. You're not grateful. It's going to reverberate, and it's going to actually really push us down. And for me, really what it took is kind of one of those things, right, where it's like our thoughts are the sum of 1,000 things we've said, you know, and like way more than that, like, and you know, they're the sum of many, many of our actions. You know, I believe, if I remember correctly, it goes what we do, what we say, what we think. I could be off there, but they kind of go in that order. And a lot of times it's really tough to shift what you think, to shift that inner dialogue. But if you start on the other side by what you do, eventually what you talk about, like you said, all of a sudden you're like, I'm just talking about vegetables all day. Well, it started with
Right.
feeding your body those vegetables and those fruits
Right.
and feeding yourself that love. And it's so much easier in the reverse than thinking, well, my thoughts are wrong, I got to change that. You know, the
True.
change starts with the action and then the word and then the thoughts. And it's just amazing the shifts that can occur.
That's true. That's how manifestation works, right? They say put in front of you or believe that it's already there. So that
Yeah.
means that your brain and your body then have to match that and come back at it. It's yeah, I think it's a beautiful way of thinking it, and filling yourself with love is something that, so when you were talking about foods like that you used to eat, like the pizzas and things like that, is
Yeah.
what I'd learned and what most people learn is stimulation is happiness. So when I think of things that have brought me joy or what I thought were happiness were like TV shows, movies, times when I was not feeling sick or when I ate something. These aren't what I know as true happiness, bliss, love, gratefulness, what I feel every day now. These I work out are just really stimulating experiences that take us away from reality. So we're kind of like not present. We're kind of like, whoa, you know,
Yeah.
those type of
Yeah.
things. And even when I taste foods now, or I get happy, like excited over foods that I make, it's very different. It's very sustained.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense. It's not so chaotic where you kind of go up and then you go down and then you got to go up again because you don't want to be down. It's very like a wave. It's kind of, and you never really go down. You kind of just plateau into like a sense of bliss afterwards. You're not crashing. And that made me learn, as I said before, it was like all these books and things that I'd read over my life, it was like I'd seen them with the wrong glasses on, and they all started to also make sense. Even lessons I'd learnt in life, I'd been seeing them the wrong way. They all kind of came together. And yeah, I just felt like also the more time I spent in nature, it was literally like nature spoke to me. Just that my quiet time, it was like my greatest thoughts, my recipes, all of them, most of them, when I'm out in nature. So it was like we put the food in and then you got to plug into nature, and it's like this turbocharge.
It's so amazing, you know, nature and animals and you know,
Yeah.
like they just show us the way, you know, they really do. They just exhibit presence and just exhibit like
They do.
simplicity, you know, just like it's beautiful. I actually had a really fun talk yesterday with Ellen Livingston, who contributed Following Nature Home, and it's 20. She's like I think 20 some years. 20 did she say 25? 21 or 25 years raw food, and she shares like
Wow.
20 really huge bites of wisdom in that book, and wise woman, and it makes me think like it's just so beautiful how many things can start to bubble up and can come into our current, you know, like how big of shifts we can experience and how they never necessarily stop, you know.
That's
It's just a continuous
right.
gift.
They flow. It's like that everything starts flowing through you, and it feels like it always should have been. Like it feels like coming home. That
Yes.
I knew home, and then all of a sudden I'm like, this is my home. Like it's I just have to say, so quickly did I feel this with
Yeah.
raw food. Like it was literally, I remember some nights I'd lay in my bed and I'd be grateful for the roof over my head and the doona on me and how comfy I felt because I could feel again. And I was just lay there in awe of how much I loved me and how incredible just laying there was. Like, whereas I never in my entire life, ever, and I will say that I do, like, you know, I went vegan and did this, but the raw, like got to the raw foods after doing that, like stop the cooked. And that was really the raw foods that made just this incredible electric difference to my whole being.
Me too. 110%. Like, I mean, I veganism is my backbone, and that's like
Yeah.
the most important thing to me, you know. And but for me, the difference between a high raw diet, 'cause I did 6 months of basically raw till 4 in the early
So,
2000s, and you know, it felt great, you know. But the 5 years of transition going from like drinking and smoking and you know bacon double cheeseburgers and Taco Bell to high raw vegan, I experienced massive shifts, massive shifts. But that
yeah,
last jump for me from high raw vegan to all raw vegan, it was like day and night. Like for me,
yeah.
that it was the thing actually that completely shifted my perspective into a life of service. Before that, I studied nutrition for like 7 years, and I was like, I just was doing it for myself. I just wanted to skateboard, and then all of a sudden, the electricity of raw foods, how it connected with my heart and soul, and to everyone else, it just shifted my entire framework. I'm like, this is the message. This is what I want to share. And I mean, now it's holistic raw food lifestyle, but it's just amazing how powerful those shifts are, and to share it with you as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people get into this and they just want to share it, and there's obviously good reason for it.
Well, that's right. And I just wanted to ask you, did it even feel different when you started skateboarding again?
Yeah.
Like because I feel everything is different, right? So was it because it's your passion?
Absolutely. No, I 1,000% felt like I was the Energizer Bunny. Like I just, I just wanted to go, 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 go. The only thing was, in the very beginning, I didn't really understand caloric density. And I mean, I did to some degree, but I guess also my digestive capacity wasn't totally there yet. And I was eating more light and juicy and not as much dense, like bananas and dates and stuff. But I was on my bike, bicycling around Vancouver, Canada, up and down major hills, just wanting to feel the pump in my legs and just feel the fresh air for hours a day. And then I'd be going skateboarding for hours a day. And, over the first 6 months, I lost a lot of weight. I got very thin because I just didn't really fully understand caloric density and the importance of more sweet fruit. And I felt like I kind of needed to crash in order to learn that, unfortunately, but I guess fortunately it allowed me to help others with that same kind of thing.
Well, that's it. That's what I think of all of this. I think of everything that I've been through, and even the lessons I learn every day. Like I can share with others.
Yeah.
They're there to share. Like that's all part of the service. Is that I went through that to now give. So when somebody says something, you can say, "Well, I've experienced that," or "Oh, that's been for me," and you can give that to other people, so that when they reach their journeys, they get to a point, and you might have always been that step that was going to come along in their path to kind of tip them where they needed, just because you've experienced things. So I like to always think of those things like that. We get there. We get there in the end. We find what works.
And it's not always easy, and this is a kind of a tough question, but it just kind of came up. I think when we're in that dark kind of pit, and we're not in this zone of gratitude, and we can't see that what we're experiencing has any benefit. It's just like, this is happening to me. This sucks. I don't like it. I'm sure you've been in that place. Of course, I can hear. I have definitely too. But do you have any insights, having gone through that, for people that are in that place who maybe even don't want to hear, like, oh, this is, for your good? What would be your thought for people that are in that spot?
So the first thing is when you go through things, when the event happens, you get the trauma response, right? So you're in that that survival, self-preservation mode, that you can't come down from that. That can go for a couple of days, right? But after that self-reflection really writes your brain. So the way you interpret and see that, you don't only write your brain for the memory, you're rewriting how you interpret the next event. You might trip over a shoelace next. It may not be the massivest thing in the world, but when you process that, you'll write it in the same way. I think you've really got to look at how best to frame anything that's happening, so that it's not only benefiting like your future you, but everyone around you as well. Like, because we all think wholly, because we are like all whole, like part of like a whole bigger thing. So when you do something, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you, including your future self. And so really just understand. I think once you understand that everything has a purpose, you can know. And also I want to say that not one thing that I've endured hasn't created a strength. So everything that you go through, when you get that peak, and you've got to write out that trauma response, and that's just the body's survival mode, is you will. If you don't, even if, at times I look how weak I was, is my strength and superpower now is that I held on and kept going, and maybe didn't find the answer for 40 years, but I did hold on to knowing that I was going to get well, and that when I did, my story would be validity to people who ever doubt doing it. Does that make sense? So people come to me often and they're like, but this reason and that reason, And so far I haven't had not an answer, because I've been through so much. So you're really creating like a structure for yourself in some way as well. But always remember, when these events are happening, it's very, very different when you calm. But when you're writing the memory for what happened, is just do it for your future self. That think about, try and frame it in the best light possible. That's what I look
That's
at.
huge. No, absolutely. I mean, and it allows you to actually examine past and bring blessings into the future with it, right? It's like, what a beautiful way to have something that maybe was really challenging and made you question things, and all of a sudden be like, hey, but that actually, so if you're in that dark place, to actually think of some other times that were really hard and how you've actually grown and benefited from them. And yeah,
It's like
that's
all about building the strength, and you give people wisdom as well. Is even when I was really, really sick, because I've been through so much, I could be a support to other people around me. And life wants to give and teach. It doesn't want to take away. And we can get in that place where we think life is taking away, but if you can always see there's some sliver of light, I promise you that mindset is what can help you get through. Doesn't matter how slim, if you still see it, that coding in the brain, when you trip over your shoelace, you will see a little bit of light.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. It makes me kind of think of the saying, like people make plans and God laughs. It's like we may have a view, a preconceived notion of what life should look like, and where we want to go, but in reality, what's going to be for our highest evolution is actually what turns out. And it's just embracing that change and embracing the childlike wonder of, oh, hey, wait, here I am now. Okay, what can I do with this? What's going on?
I like that. I like that. And I also think is usually when something falls away, we can get quite distressed or upset. But when we look back, we're like, whoa, if that didn't happen, this wouldn't have happened. Like there's that gratefulness of like that falling away had to happen to get everybody where they are now. It's also like people always say, I wish this had happened, I wish that had happened, I wish I could change that. And I always used to say, even when I was really sick, I used to say, if you change one aspect of anything you've done, even like a cell off your eyelash, your entire future would be different. You would not be standing here right now. So we all need to take solace in that. I feel is really know that like you can't even understand how minute anything changed. It'd be completely different. There's this. I remember hearing it's called the butterfly effect, and there was and the butterfly so I don't even think the butterfly was added to Earth. So anyone who's listening, so it was a meteorologist who like studied weather patterns, and what he added was not the butterfly, but to the weather pattern system going on in Earth, he added the butterflies flapping to the Earth. And very quickly the Earth was like pretty much destroyed, like within an inch of destroyed. And that is just incredible to think about, isn't it?
It really is. It really tells you, you just never know. Like you just never know that one smile, that one act of kindness.
Right.
When you're walking down the street and you see someone and you just want to say hi, or maybe they're walking a puppy and you say like, hey, can I pet your puppy? And they get so excited and the puppy gets so excited. That little teeny thing could have shifted their entire day, and
I feel like it does.
It does. Like, and then that shifts 1,000. It's just that.
It is. Look, this story came to my mind when you were talking earlier, and I remember as I was getting well and I was listening to the radio station, a man rung up. So the radio station was going to help him out. He'd been through a lot of depression. They helped him. He just got his first apartment and he was getting a job. But what he said is they were talking about hard times, and he was going to kill himself one day. And a lollipop guy, a building construction guy holding a stop sign smiled at him. And he didn't do it because he knew someone had seen him and somebody cared. And I always think, and like, that's really incredible. So, that one smile that you do change this man's life. And when you're starting out your life, these, like, you're getting your first place and you're doing that, these are so massive things. I know what a smile feels like. Like I really do. I've been in that darkness. So keep smiling at people.
Absolutely. You know, that honestly, that's one of the main reasons I love wearing these, because I automatically get the smiles back, you know, but at the same time, I just want to share them too, you know, and it's like,
Glad you do.
it's just, it's amazing the blessings we have, and the power of creation we hold within our mind and our body and our speech. And
Yeah.
like, you know, it makes me think like we are like superheroes, you know, like they say with great
Yeah.
power comes great responsibility. And when you become more aware, you really recognize the impact you have on the world, and
Yes.
how much more fun it is to be buoyant, how much more fun it is to choose that viewpoint, that perspective, and to rise up to that opportunity and spread that, right?
That's right. It is. It is, and it's also an honor. Like I think about these things often, the responsibility, like once you get the clarity, right, is it's an honor to serve, to love, to be part of Earth. It's he is a astrophysicist, and he speaks about there is so many lives that don't get made. Like in the number was astronomical that he was talking about. And we are the lives that get to be, were made. We're here.
Yeah.
We hold such a great purpose. Like
Yeah.
you've got to think what Earth did, that Mother Nature did to get you here. To get you here, even listening to us speak now, all that took place, all that happened. So I think we have to, like, it's just such an honor to be like chosen. If you are born, you are here, you're alive, you are chosen. You hold great purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a great opportunity, and you just really never know, right? Like I know for myself, and I know a lot of people have been in places where they feel like, oh, you know, maybe the world would be better without me, or you know, it doesn't. What difference can I make? And you know, this person is doing this, and they're just amazing. I might as well not even do anything, and you know, it's not worth it. And it's like, no, like you're freaking amazing.
That's right.
And the impact you have, you'll never be able to know. But if you can even experience or consider just a fraction of that, just the smallest fraction of it, it's just like you said, it makes it so much easier to walk with gratitude in your heart, and to have that childlike experience of wonder, to be able to just live and breathe and share, and you know, emit your glow onto others.
That's right. I love that. Admit your glow. I really like that. I think that's
let
so
out those
true.
roars.
That's
Roar.
right. Everyone start roaring. I think that's really beautiful. I think what we have to also just stop looking at and worrying about other people. I remember going raw is all of a sudden it was like it was only me that needed to, like, you know, do what I needed, as opposed to really feeling, you know, the pressure, I guess, most of my life, that we're in some sort of competition where I'm like, no, it's just me, like, love me. And then I got to connect with people on a new level and feel what they're giving. And I love that part of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Our individuality is what makes us attractive and connects us with other people, right? And you know, your individuality and the way you put yourself forth, and you know, your vibes, they connect with somebody. You know, there's always somebody for somebody, right? And it's just
right.
Yeah. You know,
I also just think when you're saying, you know, each person brings their vibe, brings themselves, they're all different, is just look at the raw vegan bundle. Is you'd say we're all raw vegans, but it's so beautiful to look at. There's just so many different perspectives on, like, I love that so much. I love that we can experience life differently because somebody else has created their perspective. Like, you sharing anything in your heart can change anybody's life at a moment you usually don't recognize. It usually is a moment you're not even trying. So that's what the responsibility of just loving ourselves and loving Mother Nature and it being passed on.
Absolutely. And it's just amazing too, because when you make this choice, unknowingly you're giving others permission to make that choice. You know, like, people look around and they see the norm, and they see people just doing, see people doing the same old humdrum, you know, rat race kind of life, and you know, pre-programming themselves with different, with foods and moods and mindsets. But when you step out of that and, I won't say swimming upstream, I think, in fact, we actually are letting go and we're going downstream, truthfully.
True.
It can create massive shifts that way too, because all of a sudden people are like, hey, you can do that? Like,
Yes.
like I used to love, I remember when I first went raw, I just actually reveled in getting a huge stack of fruit and going out to a public place and just sitting and eating banana after banana
Yes.
and creating a pile of peels. And, I could see some people, and now coaching and stuff like that, I've talked to some people who they're just too embarrassed. They can't do it. They want to eat raw food in a closet. And it's like, how is your light shining in that closet? Like, yeah, sure, that closet's nice and bright. Maybe you needed to clean out your closet. Maybe you need to shine that light on that closet and get those cobwebs out and dust them out in order to feel free and buoyant enough to go out into public. But I tell you, it's a blessing to be in public and to do this and to give others permission and to normalize eating our species-specific food. I mean,
That's right. This is a huge thing for me because it was like, I knew it was a big deal to finally be able to go out, but then to go out to like a restaurant with people that I hadn't seen in so many years and then sit down, and I'd already recalled the restaurant ahead and said, I want some salads and juice. Is that okay? So they had all that organized for me. But I knew everyone watches.
Yeah.
Everyone watches the Raw Vegan because it's not anything they ever see. And the other thing is you're sitting there bright, bubbly, and then everyone is eating their food, which everyone in the world, most people in the world eat, and everyone's getting slower and like gassier and uncomfortable. And before you know it, they're undoing their belts and then they want to go home and have a nap. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go exercise or go sit by the water now. And I knew that I was wearing something like it's like a cloak of honor to be doing that and to be teaching people that it's okay to do that and that it can be done. So I can go to a fancy restaurant, I can have a salad, I can socialize, I can have my juice, and then afterwards I can feel really good. Like, I loved doing that, and that's something I really take pride in. That's on my Raw website. So every time I go to a restaurant, I put on there what I've eaten and ordered and where I've been, because I guess I felt where I was sitting is I felt a lot of people who live the life they live would not think that they still do all of that, but not have those overstimulating things. So I love that. I love going places, and you know what? It feels good. I love going to like the beach and eating fruit. It's like being supercharged. It is like the greatest. Like, I find it. I feel so good that you've got the sun, you've got the fresh air, you've got your fruit, the fruit's charging, I'm charging. And then people are like, what's she doing? It can't just be the watermelon.
No.
It is the watermelon.
Why is she glowing? And I mean, that just draws people to you, and it really brought up something that I think is very, very powerful, because I think a lot of times you get into raw food and people think like, oh, like that can't be healthy. You're so obsessed with food, and like, they try and cast a negative light on it, right? And I came to realize that most people are really actually obsessed with food, but they're eating to live. No, they're living to eat, like they're so obsessed with food. Like, it blows my mind. People say we're obsessed with food because everyone travels places, and they don't go to Italy for, like they go to Italy for pasta and for pizza and to go out, and they're talking about what restaurant they're going to go to for every single meal, and they base their travels around all that stuff. And like you said, it deadens them, and they're living to eat. That's the main thing they're doing. It's like restaurant to restaurant, and they don't want to give it up because they can't even imagine life without those foods. It's like, but when you come into this, yeah, sure, anything new, I find you almost need to obsess about in order to let go of the obsession and just really be like immersed in it, So sometimes, yeah, we can be a little obsessed about food, especially in the beginning, and it feels so good. But like you said, you start living this lifestyle, and all of a sudden you're eating to live. It's switched completely around, and you just feel so enlivened by the food that is fuel for you to live your life and to enjoy your life and to be buoyant. And in between, it's like, you feel so much different.
You do. It's also when what you're saying is so true. When you go to Italy, or I just recently went to Bali, is Restaurants don't even come up for me. I'm quite happy to sit by the pool with my family and have fruit, or make myself a salad and play with my nieces. So your whole view changes. Instead of being like, oh, that restaurant, even when you're out, I was like looking at all the nature and looking at people selling fruits. Usually people are like, oh, there's that restaurant. Have you heard this restaurant? And that isn't even in my mind. It's like, what?
What?
So you're so true that it's not, you know, I don't think, and if it is obsession, it's just finding your feet at the start, because it's such a new, you have to kind of pre-plan everything. Like then you get used to it and you're not hungry all the time, and you're not like, you know, around tempting foods. It's just your life. But at the start, I think you do, that obsession can almost be helpful at the start to have everything a bit planned out.
Yeah, I find so many people really need that. And whether it's obsessing about the food or the nutrition, or, you know, even our inner talk, all that stuff, you know, it eventually can come full circle the more aware you are, right? And kind of like you said before, it's about chipping away. You know, so much of it is like that beautiful essence is always there. It's just we've covered it up. We've onion layered ourselves, and it's just, you know, that fine-tuned chipping away of that block to release and let that inner sculpture shine forth.
It's also helpful if you come from like an alcoholic, like I was smoking, is if you've got to think of something, right? So if your brain has been thinking about those type of things for a long period of time, and you have the ability to think of nuts, fruits, vegetables, and what you're going to do with them, because you've got to feel what's going on. You've got a busyness going on in there that's not really working, but you've got to put some more busyness in there to get you going. It doesn't mean that the first steps I took were the perfect steps or even ideal, but it was exactly what I needed. And I think everyone has to be aware of that. It's okay to be a bit, you know, crazy with it all at the start, because you're probably coming from a bit crazy.
Yeah, you got a little bit of crazy to unload, maybe, right?
That's right. So you've got to do a little bit of a switcheroo there.
Yeah,
you know, go crazy for nuts, they're going crazy for wine.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And I think when that craziness is being released, when it's coming up, you know, it can feel like double what it was originally, right? Because, you know, what we didn't sink awareness into, what we didn't acknowledge, what we didn't allow ourselves to feel, and we stuffed down at some time in the past, well, it might have fermented a little bit. It might have churned, and it got stuck in our cellular matrix, you know, somewhere, right? And yeah, this light, vibrant, high vibing food, it can't sit there anymore once you start filling yourself up with that love, right? That density can't. It's like darkness doesn't exist, right? It's just light. It's lack of light, you know. And it's yeah, I don't know where I'm going there, but it just feels like that light being shined within us, the foods and the different perspectives. Yeah. It brings us to a place where that density, it really can't coexist. But we may need to examine it and feel it first before we can let it go. Otherwise, we may unconsciously just shove it right back down. That's
what I find with raw foods, is you can't shove it back down. So even if you're starting out with an obsessiveness of raw foods, if you are just eating raw food, you can't stay obsessed. You have to eventually shift the mind. It just, you know, or you'd falter and do something, you know, go back and change to kind of numb, because you feel everything. So then the mind starts processing things and going, hey, feeling this sick after overeating it is not great. Like, you have simple thoughts that, and if you're not comfortable with that, you're going to have to do something to numb it. So it's one of those things that I found since doing it, was like, truth just keeps coming up and I have to face it. So even if it's not comfortable, you've got to go through it, but it's so rewarding. It's just, I find the work with this, or I can't even call it work. It's like the light comes and everything kind of melts away. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. The inner work is its own blessing, right? It's like it sometimes, sure, heck, it can be work, and this lifestyle, while it is the most enlivening, enriching, empowering, life-changing thing that I've found, you know, to me, it's like a vortex of positive change. It's like you start with this and it just changes everything, and all of a sudden you realize, hey, what about this? What about that? I can do this. I can do that, right? But in doing that change, you know, it's asking that stuff to come up. It's asking you to deal with it, right? And most people really, really utilize food as a security blanket and as a pacifier, and, you know, as their best friend at times. And it can be scary to let that go. But on the other side of that, developing new coping mechanisms and new ways of feeling and dealing, it comes with more rewards than you'll ever know. And you're a shining example of it.
Oh, thank you. I think people also should know that. Be kind to yourself when you do this, because just know you're working with your soul, which from when you're born, when you cried, you were fed milk. When you fell over as a child, more than likely you were given a treat. You will have a lot of memories or learnt behaviors around foods. And even when you try and have a mango when you fall over, you can do it. It's not going to numb anything. And with that, be kind, because every person, I can't imagine that there's very few that haven't been brought up. Well, nobody wanted suffering, and then the coping was always around, something in the mouth and eating. So so just know that you're working with that, and be kind to yourself and be rewarding to yourself. Notice that you do these things when you do them, and be like, starting off by going, okay, every time you fall over you have a mango, but eventually I promise you more than likely won't always need the mango, because it never did anything, though psychologically at the time maybe, but and because you will grow. You will.
Earlier on you mentioned how you were laying and you just felt like how much you love yourself, and that's just so beautiful. A lot of people, they aren't necessarily there, and when we're in that place, I think it's just so important to look and say, if I was looking at myself through the eyes of a friend or my parents, what would I do? How would my view change, and actually choose to be a friend to yourself, right?
True.
It's just so amazing that a lot of us aren't friends with ourselves, right? True. We at least not thought, word, and action, is thought with our own thoughts, words, and actions. If somebody treated us like that, would we want them around?
That's right. And then we wonder why we get to a place where we don't want to be around.
Yeah.
Because if we've been speaking to ourselves like that, what do we expect the result to be? Yeah. And I mean, we live in a society which can quite easily set an alarm and get up and go and work in a job for somebody, or do something for somebody, but not really want to. But when we set the alarm to meditate for 10 minutes or to just sit out in nature, we will find a reason not to do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And we have to realize that we are worth more than that. And these changes don't have to be huge. What I noticed when I did these is I still do it. I call them baby steps. Yeah. Is if I want to, I can run 5 kilometers a day now. But when I started, it took me a year and almost 4 months of walking every single day, about 4 to 5 kilometers every single day, till my body had the strength to run. I could swim, I could dance, but I couldn't get the running. But I kept going every single day. And then other things even, I can't think of, even when I think of my hair, of looking after my hair for it to grow back, it's not going to grow back overnight. It's step by step. And if you just work, and I enjoy the steps. I'm so grateful for the, you've got to be grateful for the walking, that I could walk, and the hair, little bits of hair that were coming back, and that I do get that. And we can miss that, wanting the big picture, but truly nobody and everyone in the world isn't really like we think. We want to do that to project something onto other people, but everyone's so busy looking at themselves, or in the self-love bubble like me, that we're truly not worried that your eyebrows aren't waxed, or your hair is kind of half falling out, or just something that people think matters. It's usually something that's in you that's making you feel uncomfortable.
1000%. Yeah, it's can be very scary, but also incredibly empowering to really know it's all on us, right? And it's we have limitless opportunity. We are truly creators of our life. And it's just, are we unconsciously creating, or are we choosing to become a conscious creator and actually try and map out a route and be rooted in the now and what feels the best, what really brings more connection and expansion. And it's just like we talked about throughout this whole talk, it's amazing how big of a reverberation it brings to you, and what a blessing it is that it actually helps others.
That's right. You just said something then that really stuck with me, and it can be scary to look after you, to be you, to realize that only your eyes matter on yourself. And I think that's maybe what kept me where I was a lot of my life, is because when you do step out and you're very clear with the raw foods, is the onus is on you. You have not got to impress. You're not got to, I'm not thinking of loving anybody else. All of this energy I'm putting into me at this time. And the fact that what has probably kept me there and others there is that fear, it's so, and also I guess it seems strange in this society to do for a lot of people, is to just love you, to spend a day. I know we're getting better as a society. People are like, oh, the self-care and taking like mental health days and like looking after yourself. But I still don't, it's a very deep thing to do, to put yourself first above all else.
Yeah.
And see if you can, and see the healing that occurs.
And it's rare. It's really rare. And it's funny because, you know, we could say the world's in crisis. You know, there's a lot of crazy things going on, and, you know, most people are passing away from one thing, but they, you know, could have from 3 or 4 things, and, you know, not really experiencing and exhibiting the joy and abundance in their life that I believe is our natural state. And yet we all know every single time we go on an airplane or anything like that, it says, put your mask on first, right? Well, this is it. This is your opportunity to put that mask on first and be able to help others and help us get out of this crisis mode and lead other people to the door, right? And you are so freaking worth it. You know, you're right. It's just,
it's like it's one of the most important things is to just put you first. You can't change who's running a country. You can't change what's going on in, I don't know, the other side of the world. You can't change even what your next door neighbor paints their fence. Yeah. But you can love you and set the example every day. So even when I go out and put, you know, and choose to, I don't know, when I go outside and I'm eating fruit outside, for example, is I know that people that walk past me, I am making an impression on. I may not know them. I may think they're not looking at me, but maybe later on they might eat a strawberry just because they saw me eating it. I know that looking after me impacts every person around me. So the more you're good to you, you're actually like a walking leader. Look, we all are leaders. We're supposed to be walking around, not loving ourselves, and others are then seeing that, and it's just love everywhere. So I think that's so important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, like what we do gives others permission. And even though really we don't need permission, you know, but on some level, you know, it's like we all want that community. We all want that tribe. We all want to belong. And so even if it doesn't resonate with us, we can see someone doing something that isn't an act of self-love, and we actually might be drawn closer to it. But we're reversing that when we're actually acting with self-love, right? And
that's right.
You know, the more we do it, the bigger our bonfire gets, and the more clear and confident, consistent, and enlivened we are by it. So it just becomes easier and easier and easier to be our own light rather than trying to follow other people's lights.
That's right. And I don't know whether ever have I followed somebody else's light and felt what I feel when I do something for myself, or found the self-love or love me. Like, I think I might have felt relief, but never like real, like that real, what love really is. Until I loved myself, I don't think I knew what love was.
No.
So, and no. So, because once I did that, when I came out to my family and friends, how I interacted with them, I could finally connect with them with the real me, maybe even. So, you know, there's always can be barriers and stops, and should I say this, should I say that? People know they're getting me now. I know I'm giving me. So I feel like you can really love others. I find I can love others because I've loved me. So
yeah, absolutely. How can you share what you don't know or you don't give yourself, right? You gotta fill your cup up first.
That's true. That's definitely true.
I gotta say, Skye, that I know we had planned on talking about raw recipe creation, but I think this was even more impactful and amazing, and I really feel blessed by all your sharing, and you know, your open heart, and you know, the transformation that you've had in your life, and how emblazoned it's put you on your path to roar it forth and share. I just love it, and so much love to you, and thank you so much for being a part of the bundle. Is there anything you want to leave people with?
I wanted to thank you as well. I've really enjoyed this. And I think sometimes this is how nature works, right? It just flows. You just go with it. And it's what would have been shared, was meant to be shared. So thank you. As what I'd like to say is, I truly don't think any of us know what's possible until we love ourselves. And I think for me, and what I share is that raw foods, like I saw that, and I think there's something in that. So if something resonated with you today, try it, feel it, love it, and thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And just so everyone knows, again, to wrap this up, Skye and I are part of the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle, over $1,850 worth of stuff for just $50. And you can go grab in her link or mine, and make sure you go over to her page and give her a follow if you aren't. So much inspiration, so much joy coming forth, and spreading that roar. I love it.
We got raw. Roaring through life. Thank you so much.
Much love, Skye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.